spot the signs that your child may be gifted? Does he or she have a tremendous musical ability? Are they constantly reading? There is a difference between gifted and bright.
Some parents think, well, they love school, they love homework, they're getting straight A's, they must be a gifted student. Not necessarily, and it doesn't mean that they're not smart and that they're not bright and that they're not going to go far. But when we're talking about gifted, we're talking about gifted programs in school. But if you think your child is gifted, some things that you may see different is that they want to hang out with adults and have conversations with adults. Or, I mean, one of the biggest signs for one of my kids is that they were bored. They weren't being challenged, and a lot of them have wild imaginations and think of things or want to continue to learn about a subject past what school does. But instead of you trying to figure it out, ask your teachers. And a lot of times teachers will say, look, they're outperforming, you know, the rest of the class, they're ahead of their class, and I really think that they should be tested for being gifted. So the first thing you do is you get tested. it's an IQ test of 130. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get into the gifted programs. All schools are different. But yeah, you can either get a test through the school or through a private practice like a psychologist or something like that, and then you go from there.
Someone who knows a lot about identifying gifted students is Columbia County teacher Dawn Jeffers, who won the Paul Torrance Creativity Award at the State Gifted Conference on March 13th. The prestigious award is presented to an individual who has excelled in research, creative productivity, or helping recognize and develop creative potential in others. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here today.
Well, I'm pleased that you're here and pleased that you were able to bring Nathan. I know you must be excited as a gifted teacher to have him here.
There's nothing I love more than working with gifted and talented students.
And how many years have you done it?
I started that in 1990. So I took a few years off for babies, but even when I wasn't working, I still was working with students. So.
Well, you always have, and you teach your own children, and you teach children at church. You apply so much of this. I mean, everything about the way you deal with children, you make it a game, but there's also learning involved.
Absolutely. And just getting on their level and just listening. A lot of it's listening to them and hearing what they like and seeing how I can excite them about learning. That is one of my favorite things to do, is to get kids excited about learning.
Well, one way you did that recently was with a project about Biltmore House, and Biltmore loved it so much they've shared it. So tell me about that.
So we went to the Biltmore, and actually Sandra Anderson, who was on your
story,
clip, she was the one that kind of started that project, and we went to the Biltmore together. So they studied the Biltmore, and each one of them had to choose something about the era of the Biltmore when it first started, or something about the Biltmore, do some research and create a written story about it, or a paragraph, and then they did an illustration. Well, when we went to the Biltmore, you know, they took it all in. We came home, we made a book, and the book, it was just fabulous. The kids loved it, I loved it. It was just so exciting. So we sent it to the owner, and the owner loved it, and he texted us back immediately, and then he put it on the blog, and we were on their Instagram and Facebook page, and it was just delightful. And they read through the entire book. They took out segments of what the students wrote and took their illustrations and posted them, and it was just a beautiful project.
And the kids must have loved that.
Yeah, it would talk about an authentic audience.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to bring Nathan back into the conversation. Why are you here, and what is this? Is this related to the Gifted Conference in Georgia?
Yes, absolutely. Well, years ago, I started using Stories with Holes. I used it with my students, I used it with my children, and one of my favorite moments of my life was when I was driving with my 22 and 15-year-old. They were in the front seat, I was in the back seat, and I said, hey, I have some new Stories with Holes. And they said, oh, those problem-solving problems with holes. Mom, read those to us. And for an hour and a half, we sat, and I got to listen to my two boys answer questions and just hear their train of thought. These stories have been part of my life for so many years. So
this is very exciting for you.
Exactly. So I feel like I know Nathan, even though we just met. And so he was in the conference in Atlanta, and then on his way home, he's swooping through Augusta, and he's coming to Uchee Creek to work with our parents and our teachers tonight.
That is awesome. And Nathan, you shared another book with me in the break that is lovely. It's called There Are Those. And would you do us the honor? You told me this describes a gifted child.
This was written many years ago. There's a big story behind it that I won't tell on public TV. But in terms of People, I as an educator stay away from identification of gifted. What we've learned is that we miss some kids and we get kids that we shouldn't have. So I'm interested in just helping. Well, how do you identify a gifted child? This is my answer to that question.
Okay.
There are those, and they're not few, who see a sky and just see blue. There are those in strong their might who look at stars and just see light. They will hear Brahms' symphony, and all they'll hear is melody. They look at me and even you, yet all they see is a face or two. But there are those, and they are few, who see much more than others do. They see beyond the blue of sky, beyond just lights, for stars will die. They hear much more than melody. They hear the heart of a symphony, and they can see beyond my face to a more secluded place. And because their cups hold a larger store, when they drink far more. So there are those. It's been around for a while, but it's still read at gifted conferences all over the world. Visit storieswithholes.com and find out about that in the Stories with Holes.
That's
and
right.
Not just schoolwork, which is the book I've been using for years.
We've got that information for you on our website. I encourage you to go to, there's another one. Go to the JENNIE page on WJBF.com and you'll find the link to Nathan's website. And I did notice there's some $5 clearance books there too that look very interesting. All kinds of books on the Stories with Holes website. Nathan Levy, Don Jeffers, thank you all so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you. We'll be right back.